looks great. That looks, Doc, you want to put that up here? Can everybody hear me okay? Welcome. It is an awesome day. It's beautiful outside. It's beautiful inside. I am very happy to see all of these faces, particularly our current student athletes that are here today to witness yet another class of very special people who have put Barton athletics on the map and really personify what we're all about here at Barton Athletics. It's no secret, everybody knows that this is one of my most favorite days of the year as we get to again celebrate all of the accomplishments, and more importantly than the accomplishments of those that we will induct today, but we get to celebrate those people. And I've said for years and years and years, that's really what makes this place what it is. And that is special, and it's because of people. You're going to see that firsthand today, and we're going to celebrate our 2023 inductees between the women's and men's basketball games this evening again, and you'll get another reflection of how important the people are in the rich history of Barton Athletics. It shines through and through every single year, and the three inductees this afternoon on hand with us, two of them, as I'll go ahead and get that piece out of the way. Ebby is not here with us this afternoon, had some circumstances come up. He's going to try to be here for our public introduction of the inductees between games this evening, and so presenter Lori and myself will talk a little bit about him this afternoon, and then again, we're hopeful that he'll be able to get here for this evening. Before we get to why we're really here, I would ask that any current Hall of Famers that are in this building right now, would you please stand? And I know we have some on the stage as well. Let's have a big round of applause for those in the house with us today. Ray and David and Doc and Lori and Pete, thanks for being here with us. Well, nobody came to hear me jabber today, so I'm going to get out of here and we're going to move forward. I do know that there's some very important cogs to the wheel here at Barton Athletics that would also like to share some words with you before we meet our new inductees today. So if you would please welcome to the microphone the man who hired me here 12 years ago, and that is very, very key in how we're doing things here and the support that we have at Barton Athletics. Please welcome President Dr. Carl Heilman.
Now that Trevor's left the podium, I have to bring the mic down. Welcome, everybody. This is a chance where I can give an introduction with brevity and to speak and honor those that we're recognizing today. I have comments here, but I crossed it all out and I just put 3 words on it, and that's what I'm speaking to. And those 3 words are: quality is culture. Quality is culture. This past fall, the college underwent an accreditation of our peers, national accreditation. If you don't have accreditation for a period of time, you don't exist. You cannot distribute money, you cannot transfer credits, you cannot be. So this fall, we had the colleagues and national organization come on the campus for a 2-day inspection, audit, review. And the lead peer, a colleague of great substance in terms of her professional being and awareness, shared with me her reflection on her 2 days. And the comment that really struck me was that culture presents an agent of quality. Barton's culture presents an agent of quality. Well, that's a good statement. You like hearing that. But if you dig a little deeper and you find out what that includes and what that can include and how it impacts people, I look at this setting right here and I can say, this is quality. This event is quality. It has substance. I will go back to 2006. Athletic programs in the college and all achievements have it up and down, and it comes around. Well, the college since 2003, 4, 5, and 6 has come around, where we can speak to and recognize everybody's contribution and how it impacts ourselves, but our families, our communities, our peers, those we cherish and value. So we're recognizing individuals who all are an agent of quality. Part of Barton's culture is founded on quality. This is what we'd like to see handed down to each one of you, students and public members, that you embrace quality and know what it reflects and how it impacts you and those that are dear to you. So I thank you for being here today and recognizing our agents, and pass it along. Thank you very much.
Very impactful words, Dr. Howman, quality and culture. I talk about people, I talk about excellence, I talk about leadership, I talk about dedication, I talk about service, I talk about passion, work ethic, pride. All of those words are certainly affordable today as we recognize these individuals. One other thing I talk about is, it kind of goes hand in hand with culture, is village. It takes a village. And this next representative of our village coming up is a very important piece of how do you attain success. There's a long road to success for teams, coaches, individuals, athletic trainers. There's a long road. And along that road, there is always people who are willing to help you get to the finish line or achieve success. And a part of that village here has always been and continues to be the Booster Club. So now if you would help me welcome this year's president of the Cougar Booster Club, Mr. Rob Bowman.
Good day, sports fans. I'm going to ad-lib this as best I can. Sometimes I have to see, though, my notes. I'd like to do, along with Dr. Heilman and Trevor, welcome you all here for this celebration of our 2023 inductees. I'm not a soccer guy, okay? So I didn't know a lot about Kevin, but I can assure you, Kevin, that you are very well respected and thought of here at the college. You're a prime example of the type of individuals that we like coming into our little club, Hall of Fame. So a lot of people here really love you, and they talk highly of you, and just glad to have you come through our little institution. So thank you. Doc Henderson, him and I grew up together for a while in the Berg at Pawnee Rock and Dundee. And I'm really kind of proud to be up here when he's getting both retired and inducted. Us Pawnee Rockers, outside our little realm, we think we're pretty special. Not a lot of other people do, but we think we are. And I can tell you, our Pawnee Rockers are proud of you, Kenny, among everyone else around here. So congratulations. Thank you for everything. Good luck on retirement, and I hope to see you all over the place doing things at your speed, retirement speed, because it's pretty cool. Thank you. And the last thing, Ebby, those of you that were fortunate enough to watch Ebby play basketball, he was a pretty damn good basketball player, and he was fun to watch. And he broke my boy Tony Hobson's scoring record, Tony held it forever. The thing about Tony is they didn't have the three-point line back then, okay? He had 47 points, and I think Ebby had like 51 or something. Now, Tony didn't like to play defense, though. That was Tony's deal. So on the part of the Booster Club, the Barton Community College Booster Club, and our board, I'd like to congratulate you guys again. We're very proud to have you join our Ring of Honor, if you want to call it that. I'd like to thank everyone here for coming to our event again this year. It's kind of a highlight of obviously the college, the athletic department, but the Booster Club. We have two main events really, basically. The first one is our fundraising event in August, our golf tournament, and then this Hall of Fame sports event, induction event, and so I'd like to thank all of you, okay? I'd like all the board members for the Booster Club to please stand if they would. I'm gonna just run through them real quick. Great group. This is an awesome group to work with, and with the support of Trevor, Todd, Heather especially, Heather Panning, Steve Divis on the right, Chuck Feldholder, who else? We got Eric Gotchi over there, he's our golf leader. Sandy Smith, one of the originals, right? Barton Community College originals. Heather, we can't forget Heather. Voice of the Cougars, Mr. Rife back there, Cole Rife, Linda Sisson. Who am I missing? Janice Link, JJ, and then I'm going to say this last, but definitely not least, and the better half of my partnership, Kelly Bowman, standing in the back. I'd like to thank all you guys for putting up with me. 2 years ago, I think, I told you I was here because I missed a board meeting. Well, this time I made the board meeting, but I got outvoted, so here I am. Just again, a little reflection on what the Booster Club does is we're in the background raising funds to help support the athletic teams here on the college, whether it's financial, if they need a little money for this, a little money for that, help pay for their trips when they make the regionals and nationals, that kind of thing, feed them meals during the off cafeteria period, that kind of thing. Just what we can do to help support the kids. Most of us, we all love the college. We appreciate the college. We're glad it's here. We want to support it, and that's our mission. If any of you out there would be interested in joining us, feel free to either corner one of us, or you can go to, I believe it's bartonsports.com, do a little, if you're computer literate, go in there, do a little fumbling around, and you can find out, what we do and how to get involved, okay? You know what, kids? That's enough for me. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Congratulations. We're proud of you all. Thanks.
Again, part of the cog in that wheel, the Booster Club board, if you would with me, let's give them one more big round of applause for what they do. Sincere gratitude to each of you. Now let's get to what we're here for, and we're going to meet all three of our Hall of Fame inductees today, and we're going to celebrate all day. Really, that's what today is. Maybe that's why I like it so much. I like to celebrate. And we're going to celebrate Barton Athletics, and most specifically, these two individuals, and then if Ebby can be with us this evening, him as well. Our first presenter today, no stranger to Barton Community College, no stranger to the Hall of Fame. Please give it up for my man, Pistol Pete Manelli. Welcome back, buddy. Love you. Might have to pull that down.
Yeah, Trevor's always been taller since we were here as a freshman and a sophomore. He hasn't gotten any shorter. I think I actually have, and His hair looks actually good still compared to this thing here, so whatever. So, yeah, I'm Dr. Ryan Pete Maneely, a Hall of Fame class of 2015, Barton Sports Hall of Fame. I'm the current program director of the Graduate Athletic Training Program at Sterling College, just down the road. I'm still clinically involved as an athletic trainer. My women's basketball team is about to win their three-peat conference championship, so after watching my mentor go in today, I'll be on the road doing what athletic trainers do. Work on Saturdays. So very excited to be here today. Just truly honored and humbled to introduce our first inductee in the Barton Community College Hall of Fame class of 2023, Ken Doc Henderson. To the athletic department here, Trevor and Todd, the Booster Club, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this special day. It truly is an honor. And truly to you guys, and honestly, Trevor, to you, thank you for your commitment to making this place be what it is and the best two-year institution in this state. I'm proud to be a Barton alum. I'm proud to be up here today. To all the other inductees and families, congratulations. Enjoy today. It's truly an honor to be up here with you on the stage. Now, let me set the record straight. I'm here to talk to you about my mentor today, my lunch buddy. We have had many meals together the last 20 years, and every chance I had to come back to Kansas, Ken and I would always get together and have a meal and talk about how things are, how things have been, how times keep changing, and Ken's not much for change. We complain about that for a good 45 minutes, then we'd order our meal, and then an hour and a half later, he'd go back to work. So worked out well for both of us. I am very emotional. I have no problem admitting that, so some tears are possible. Ken doesn't want to be emotional, but I got a good feeling it's going to be. 41 years. 41 years. And that itself is an institution. Ken told me when we had lunch together that he told Trevor, he's told Todd, he's told everyone on the phone call and the acceptance into the Hall of Fame that he says, and I quote, "I've told them that after that long, they have to put you in the Hall of Fame." And I'm here to tell you today that Ken is Barton Sports. He is deserving, and he is a Hall of Famer. ATs are the first ones in the building, the last ones to leave. We are at every practice and game, home or away. We work 6 to 7 days a week. It isn't 9 to 5. There is no off season. Ken has worked that life for 41 years here at Barton, not counting his time at KU and Drake. So altogether, Ken has been involved in athletic training for almost 50 years and has seen the profession change drastically in that time. And most of those years here at Barton, he was by himself. And he asked for an assistant for a long time, but I'm like, Ken, I don't think you really want one because you like running the show and being the man, but at some point, I think he's okay having a few assistants now. Ken, you are a Hall of Famer. Ken was the second hired community college athletic trainer in the state of Kansas in 1983. He watched and grew up with some of the best athletic trainers the state has ever seen with Dean Neesmith and John Baxter. And then he himself became one of those legends and helped create the Kansas Athletic Trainers Society and many other accolades. And in my opinion, being in the state for 20 years, Ken has set the standard for what athletic training should look like in the Jayhawk Conference and even across the state. Barton Sports Medicine has set the standard, a brand that he's been behind from the time I got here in '92. Ken, you are a Hall of Famer. Ken has firmly followed the belief that you only grow in athletic training when you get to make decisions and your hands get dirty, which is why his athletic training students leave here prepared. And as much as education has changed that he will talk about today, his philosophy stands true. I do with my students in my program. If your hands aren't involved and you aren't making decisions, you're not going to grow in this profession. And Ken, what you've told me has resonated through me. Ken will never admit that this is his philosophy, but I know if I say it, he'll believe it. You make big time where you're at. In my whole life, I've tried to verbalize that. I've tried to do that myself, knowing all along that my mentor pushed me to believe in that. No one's better than Ken Henderson in the world of athletic training. He believes that. Is it true? Doesn't matter. He believes in it. The same way I believe in myself, the way he instilled that in me. This summer, I was very blessed to be able to have Ken on our podcast, Tail to Tape podcast. You can find on Spotify or Apple. Okay, don't search that right now, later on. Okay. We interviewed Ken with my head athlete trainer, Andrew Drake, and I feel like that kid in 1992 who walked in the athlete training camp we had back in the day. I felt like that little kid from Lebanon, Kansas, looking up to this guy who was bigger than life and listening to him tell his stories for over an hour. And I'm 48 years old, and I was like completely inspired and completely involved in all the things he had to say of all the years he's been here. 7 years ago on this stage, in reverse roles, Ken introduced me for this honor. It was unique to go into a Hall of Fame when your mentor was not in that same Hall of Fame. I really was kind of questioning why Ken hadn't gone in first, although I'm okay with it, just so we're clear. I'm good. I'm okay going in first. Diane, John, and Kelly, I know you're very proud of your husband and your dad today. I know there were times in those years he was gone on road trips and late practices and games and wasn't there for a lot of things. Just so you know, I thank you. Because he was with me and 500 other athlete training students. We had a lot of great road trips. I want to thank you guys for all of us, for Ryan Zink and Jeremy Emmons, Jamie Likes, Ryan Bramhall, the whole crew. Thank you guys. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you today, class of 2023 Barton Sports Hall of Fame, my mentor, my friend, Ken Doc Henderson.
Okay, that's a tough act to follow. And maybe I don't need to say anything. That sounds pretty good. All right. First of all, it's an honor to be a part of this foundation, this Hall of Fame. I look up to coaches that are in it and athletes that are in it. And I wasn't going to get emotional. Okay, here we go. But I learned a lot over the years from those people, athletes, coaches alike. Okay, athletic training at the college level, it's a pretty time-intensive endeavor, professionally and personally. Professionally, one season ends and another one begins. I'll be on the road, we'll lose the last game of a season, coaches are crying, athletes are crying, and I'm like, okay, let's get home, I got another game tomorrow. I don't really always enjoy the losses or the wins or whatever. I'm not really a part of that sometimes. Personally, as Pete alluded, you miss a lot when you're an athletic trainer. So I thank the family for putting up with me and encouraging me to survive it and go through it, but you miss a lot. My journey to become an athletic trainer really started my junior year in high school. Great Bend High sent students to what was called the Kramer Student Athletic Training Camp. It was for high school students all across the country. Great Bend was a rare high school in sending to this camp. And there I met Dean Nesmith, who would become my inspiration. John Baxter, who became my mentor, because I could never tell Dean I didn't know something. And there had to be an athletic trainer out there I could call and talk to, and it was John. And then I met an athletic trainer from Oklahoma that wrote one of the first books in athletic training, Ken Rawlinson. And those guys just pushed athletic training on us, talked about how fun it was, and just how to do everything. We don't do that anymore. I'm in high school, and I spent 1 week learning how to tape. I spent 1 week learning how to evaluate injuries and treat injuries, a high school student. And they aren't going to do that anymore. But I think that's where, excuse me, I got my love for athletic training was from those guys. So I graduate high school and I go off to KU in 75. And the idea then was to go into med school and become a doctor. No one told me that I had to make good grades to be a doctor. Nobody told me that. That was not on my bucket list of college activities. We had to have fun. We had to go party. We had to just get by in the classroom, whatever. So, that was kind of on my mind. And then, like Pete said, I think I'm the greatest. KU didn't want me. And I was like, that was shocked. So, okay, freshman. Your freshman year in college, it's all about persistence and sticking with what you believe in and what you want to do and changing your mind when something doesn't work out. Perseverance is the difference between a successful person and others. It's not a lack of strength or a lack of knowledge, it's rather a lack of will. You have to find what fits for you. So I go back my sophomore year. I changed my major to physical education with the intent to become a high school basketball coach and get athletic training as a background, because then that would allow me to get into football and help with football. Not playing high school football or basketball, I figured I had to have an edge somewhere to get into that field. So that was my plan. Unfortunately, KU still didn't want me. Didn't really know why. The door was just shut in my face. So I took my care and prevention class that all sophomores took. It was taught by the women's athletic trainer, and during some of our discussions, we talked about how I had tried to get into the KU program, but I couldn't even get my foot in the door. So a week or so later, she came back. She goes, "You need to go talk to Mr. Nesmith." And I went, "Okay, why? He's turned me down twice." And she just says, "No, you need to do it." So, okay, I'll go do it. Then the door was open and I was in and life was great and I started a career. I found out later the only reason he never talked to me was because I was from Great Bend. He thought people from Great Bend were lazy, we were not reliable, and that was all just because of two people. Had a student trainer from Great Bend that was worthless in his words, and his son-in-law and his wife and his daughter got divorced when he was a teacher at Great Bend. So Great Bend was just taboo. It took the head of the PE department to get me in the door. So perseverance, and it's who you know that'll get you where you need to go. Just throw that out and keep it in mind. At KU, I had the best of both worlds. With Dean, the head trainer, now granted, he started athletic training in the 1930s. 1980s, that was 50 years. I've done it 40. I have no desire to keep up with him. But he taught us just through experience. And then Lynn Bott was the assistant athletic trainer, the first assistant at KU. So it took, Dean quite a few years to get an assistant. So, I beat him in that regard. I got one a little faster than he did. Now, Lynn, he wasn't always talking about experience because he didn't have that much. This was his first job out of college. So he talked about the importance of learning the human body the best we could and just learning all we could learn about athletic injuries. Keep in mind, I took one athletic training class. And a lot of just studying on my own and asking questions. I just had one class. Well, in 2 years at KU, I got to work with football and basketball. Got a lot of experience there. I traveled with indoor track. I covered baseball, worked home events for gymnastics and swimming. So the sports that KU had, I was able to participate in over 2 years. Now you keep in mind at that time, and I would expect not too many people in here to even remember this time, but keep in mind that Title IX was just a discussion when I was in college. Men worked with men's sports, women worked with women's. I never, ever covered a women's event because that was just below me until I came to Barton. Diener was old school. If we got caught talking to a female athlete or sneaking a female athlete into the training room, which we did, hell was to pay. He did not approve of that at all. Well, when it came time to graduate, where I said, persistence is, strong of the will, or, pushing forward through that type of thing, I'd changed my mind again. Didn't want to be a high school coach. Didn't want to teach at the high school level. I didn't want anything to do with high school. And I'd graduate. Now, if my parents really paid attention to what I did, they'd have had a nervous wreck. But what am I going to do? I go to Drake University for 1 year, grad assistant, got to be an athletic trainer, got to do the job. Realized that's what I wanted. And we talk about who you know, how it's important not to burn bridges and stay in contact. So Lonnie, the head trainer at Drake, came in one day and he goes, "There's a job open at this community college in Great Bend." And I go, "Yeah, so what?" I'm not going back there. So he didn't say anything, and a day or two later he goes, "You realize there's no jobs out there for athletic trainers, kind of like it is now. There's just not a lot of jobs. There's a lot of job openings, not a lot of trainers now." I guess it was the other way around then. So, okay, I'll look at it. And I have this on my board. It was, if you don't do it, you will never know what would have happened if you had done it, okay? If you don't do it, you'll never know what would have happened if you had done it. Now, that philosophy means that I learned sometimes that was a stupid idea, and I don't want to do that again, but I tried it. And okay, just to humor Lonnie, I called up here to Barton. Now, it's important to know people. I knew the president. I knew the vice president. I knew someone in the communications office. And I made a good first impression with the AD and the men's basketball coach. Good first. Now, I guess I forgot to add, prior to that, I knew already that the person they were going to interview for the job, this might sound familiar to Trevor, the person that I knew they were going to interview for the job and offer the job to, he was going to turn it down. So I called the day after he turned it down. So it was timing and, excuse me, who I knew. Now, this is the 1980s. It's not 2023. But the first game I went to was the day I interviewed, and we played Dodge. It was a full gym, packed house. Not sure we know what that is anymore. The band was crazy. It was awesome. It was loud. It was fun. A lot of excitement. And it was just the same level of excitement as going to a game at KU. And then after the game, we always went to Black Angus Steakhouse, and we had a social after the game, and all the athletes had to go and talk to the boosters. And I thought that was really cool. So 11 o'clock that night, and I started my interview at about 12. That night, they just called me about 11 and says, "Want the job? It's yours." And I go, "Yeah, I'll take it." And dang, I'm still here. So at that time, my goal was to commit for 5 years, and then I was going to start looking for another Division I job. Well, part of that process was, one, I looked at KU and I looked at K-State, and I looked at Fort Hays, and I always found a problem with one of those schools. KU, I made more money as the head trainer at KU than I would have as an assistant at KU. K-State, I just could not see myself ever wearing purple. I just wasn't going to happen. And Fort Hays was a backup option. Okay. So John Baxter, the trainer at Emporia State, I called him up and I asked for a reference. And we did this 3 or 4 times. But he would always sit there and go, "Do you have administrative support?" "Yeah, I do." "You have a budget that's adequate to do your job?" "Yeah, I do." "Do I enjoy my job?" "Yeah, I love my job." He goes, "And so what are you even looking for?" And I started thinking about it, and every time I looked to leave, I realized that I had a good thing going here at Barton. And the grass really is greener on this side of the fence. So it's been a great job, and I was still here. I keep forgetting I'm not here anymore. I'm back, I don't feel like I left. Okay, I think it's important too for me, Pete alluded to it, athletic trainers my age, we're the end of an era. The way we think, it's different now. I had one class. What do you have now, Pete? 10? I don't know. A bunch. I had one. The book was that thick. By the time I was teaching here for several years, that one book was now that thick, and I'm going, how did I learn all that? I don't know, I did somewhere. So the thing is that when we were going through our education, it was based a lot on watch and learn. Watch the head trainer, watch the assistant trainer, and copy what he does. Trust your instincts. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I make a lot of them. And the development of interpersonal skills and common sense. It wasn't education, it was life. Our emphasis was not on health care. And that sounds kind of hard to explain, I guess. But the healthcare system in athletic training is that we refer to the doctors a lot more often. We use other professions a lot more often. We're looking at the total health of the athlete, not just that sore arm or sore, knee or whatever. We were trained to recognize injuries, just recognize them. We weren't diagnosing anything. We just recognized it. There's a thin gray line there between recognize and diagnose if you talk to the doctors that work with athletic trainers, because we diagnose all the time. But, we were taught to recognize, correctly manage them, and the big thing was refer only when necessary. Medicine was different in 1980. So we didn't refer unless it was an absolute necessity. Parents did not want us to refer. That's what we were hired for. The AD really didn't want us to refer because that meant we were spending money. Now money, I don't even want to think what we spend on medical care today. Now when we had questions, we relied on physicians and surgeons for guidance, but a lot of those surgeons and physicians didn't have a clue what an athletic trainer did, what we knew, what our role was. So over 40 years in the medical arena, it's made some unbelievable advances in knowledge and skills and in the careers a person can go into. The Learn As You Go method or internship program has disappeared, and today it's a master's. I had a bachelor's degree. I was hired without being certified. Nobody cared. I went to KU, that's what mattered. That was weird. I didn't realize KU was that great until I interviewed. And after that, it was like, well, you went to KU, just do what they did there. Oh, okay. Then I would call John at Emporia. How do I do that? It's interesting, but And now with the master's program, it's such a strong academic curriculum. And the internships that they go through, they get a lot of hands-on experience. And when I got started, I had I don't know how to say this. There was nobody governing me or telling me how to do things. Where now today, you're nationally certified and you have to follow their codes and their rules, and we're all licensed within our state, and we have to follow those rules and everything. So it was a lot different than it is today. Today, I don't know if I get into athletic training or not, but back then, I like to do things my way. So it fit. I have to thank, and nobody here except Dr. Smith probably would know, but I started, the first doctor I had that I worked with was Dr. Alderson. He didn't stay very long. I never knew the connection that Dr. Smith had with the college, never asked. But I went into Jerry Mullen, the AD, and I go, I'm going to have to get another doctor to, supervise me that I have to work under and everything. And it's already taken care of. I go, well, it's Dr. Smith. Okay, cool. I don't have to do anything about it. No, it's done. Okay. I don't know if that was him, Dr. Downing. I don't know. But it worked out perfect. And as Dr. Smith is retired, Dr. Pike's taken over, and it's going to be just as good as what, we had before. Dr. Flesky and Dr. Hildebrand, I have to mention them because they're our orthopedic surgeons. Dr. Krause, Dr. Boone, they were podiatrists, and we have a lot of foot problems in athletics. And then I learned a lot from Jolene Tustin and Kathy Brock and Jenny Bowers taking over for them as our school nurse. With Jolene, we were able to get a clear-cut definition, and you guys see it today. You come into the training room, and it's, I don't feel good, so you don't feel good, go see the nurse. I'm not going to worry about it. I have a toothache. Probably got a caveat, go see the nurse. And when I started, we didn't have a nurse, so Jolene was really big on separating athletics and students' issues, so it's worked out great. I really love that woman, just for getting all that straightened out. And Dr. Smith and Dr. Flesky taught me a lot. And so, that was good. Athletic training-wise, I need to thank assistant trainers. The first assistant I had was Katie Winder in '99. That was an act of God. And it wouldn't have happened without the doctors promoting it. Then we had Matt Luthi, who was a student here, came back to be an athletic trainer. Ryan Zink has experienced athletic training at every level. Jason Parks, Joe Pettit, John Leverkamp, and Ashley Getter, they were all, assistants and worked with me. And that was always, as Pete said, like you're never going to have one. It was a challenge. Because they all did things differently, and it was like, what in the hell are you doing? But it worked. And then in 2019, we brought on Kelsey to be an assistant, so I had two, and when Ashley left, Kylie came in, and I had two, so that's been good. As I was looking through information, I thought it was just cool to me, so you just have to bear with me if you don't care. In fact, the rest of this is just stuff I thought was cool to me. I started off and I had Dana Foss was our secretary. She's retired. A wonderful lady. But the thing I liked about her was she could answer all of a young person's questions. And she could tell you how to do it. And she handled all of the bills and all the paperwork and everything else. I mean, she was phenomenal. Even if she was with us today, she couldn't handle it. It just changed so much. I've worked with over 5,000 student athletes. Now, when I took this job, and this is why I say maybe I wouldn't take it today if I knew, how things would change. But when I took this job, we had 9 sports. and we had 97 athletes. Fall of 22, we were up to 21 or 23 sports, depending on how you count them. On a bad day, we have 23. On a good day, I just call it 21. And we have 388 athletes. That's what we started the fall off with. So it's changed dramatically. We don't have free time in the training room anymore. You can't work with one sport anymore. When I started, when you had 9 sports, you did baseball in the fall and didn't care about anybody else. You just did baseball and volleyball. Those sports were over, and as they ended, you started basketball. You had a little carryover with volleyball and basketball. Then you had basketball. Then as basketball ended, you had a pretty strong spring semester, but they weren't used to using you because you didn't do anything with them in the fall, so they still didn't know you were around in the spring. And so baseball and softball didn't take up much time. Track and field didn't take up much time. It was just different. I did not look up assistant coaches, but I have worked with 91 different head coaches. Athletic directors definitely, spend a lot of time on developing that relationship because, 91, that's quite a few. Then a couple things I just have to throw out because I just question why. It's just me. Baseball. It has the longest season. We've only had 3 coaches. There's something about baseball, and I think I understand it, that it's just relaxed. You just go out to the ball field and you hit a little bit and throw the ball around a little bit, stay out there for 6 hours playing a couple games, and you go home. But it's pretty relaxed, Unless somebody does something stupid and gets hurt, it's a pretty easy day. But then I don't understand volleyball. We've had 12 coaches, 6 girls on the court, maybe 6 more to practice, and we go through that many coaches and girls. Volleyball must be a lot tougher than it looks. That's all I'm going to say. I've had just over 500 athletic training students. I convinced just 17 to follow me into the profession. So it gives you an idea of they get to see in the training room exactly what the profession's all about. And they love it or they hate it. Well, 17 were gullible enough to move on. And right now we have 6 that are at the 4-year level pursuing it. And I'm kind of curious there. Okay, and I was going through some stuff when I was retiring, and I came up with memorable moments, things that stick out in my mind that I don't know if people can even comprehend if they weren't here. There was I say that in the 80s and 90s, we had one level of athletics at Barton, and 2000 on, we have created a different level of athletics. I'm not going to say one's better than the other, but they're distinctly different from an athletic trainer's point of view. Okay, I said how exciting the Dodge game was when I interviewed. When my first year here at Pratt, 2 minutes and, some seconds left, the wildest, not the last, but the wildest brawl broke out. And I'm going, yeah, this is Duco. I like this. It was crazy. Now, the thing that as coaches, and we're sitting on the bench going, if the officials don't get this game under control, we're going to have a fight. I remember Jerry Mullen at a timeout went over to a coach and goes, if you guys don't get this under control, we're going to have problems, and you're the officials. It's going to be on you. And if you can't see it, that's not my problem. Shortly after that, one of their guys just laid off and hit one of ours. Now, I know our player said something he shouldn't have said, probably talked about his mother or, something derogatory, and he got hit. and the fight was on. Now, we were concerned about the baseball players on both teams, because if anybody goes to games, even today, it's the baseball team that gets the rowdiest. That's just how it works. But at that game, baseball players from both teams tried to break up the fight. Can't imagine this today. Our booster club, pretty lame compared to then. They were out on the floor fighting too. I mean, I was crazy. But I was sitting there going, wow, this is kind of cool. Well, at that time in the 80s, the anticipation of a physical game was the norm. It became the norm. It was always on our discussions about, are we going to have a fight tonight? Is this going to be the night? We haven't had one for a while. What's going to happen? And it wasn't just Barton, it was everywhere. It was just the Jayhawks conference. And then sometime in the early 2000s, just overnight, society changed. They no longer tolerate that type of activity, and we don't tolerate it today. But it changed. Prior to that time, if we were playing hutch, and now when you talk to athletes about hutch, you guys even know that hutch is just like evil. They're the enemy. I know when I bring that up, I get like, huh, what? But then it was big stuff. We would have a game here, and we would have people lined up all the way out in the parking lot for a 5:30 game. They were lined up at 3, and we opened the doors. Huge fan base, everybody. For a hutch game, the gym was packed. No room at all. Now we have a rail that's around the court. That used to not have cable through it. And you could sit on the floor, lean onto the top bar, and watch the game. Well, that place was packed. A hutch fan calls the Great Bend Fire Marshal on the hutch crowd because she couldn't see the game. And they found out we were way over the limit. The excitement that the Booster Club had, and when I say Booster Club, I'm just going to say Great Bend, the community. Go to Odessa, Texas, 11-hour drive, they would take a bus. They would go to Liberal. Why would you go to Liberal? But we had a bigger crowd than they did. In the early days, we had bigger crowds than other teams did. And it set the precedent. 20 years ago, we didn't postpone games because of the weather. I mean, what is that? All of a sudden, we got worried about the weather. I mean, it didn't matter how bad it was, we went. Now, that might mean leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning to get there for a game at 9, but we left. We went on snow and ice and crazy storms and everything. And now coaches complain about when they have to take a van. Well, that's all we had sometimes were vans. One year, we got rid of all the buses and all the coaches had to drive vans. So when they complain about that to them, going, yeah, I did that already. I don't know what you're bitching about. Now, so they'll talk about luggage and go, well, we can't get all our luggage in the van if we take vans. Well, you know how we remedied that? 1980s, we put luggage bins on top of the vans and you put all the luggage on the luggage bin, took off. Now, as they got older, they didn't stay latched, so you might be going down the road and seeing suitcases and all kinds of stuff flying out behind the van, but we always caught it and got everything back. But we drove in everything. It's part of the adventure. In the 80s and 90s, I was trying to think of things that really stood out for me, And one is, we don't see this anymore, but the Division I head basketball coaches recruited a lot more, and they came to our gym a lot. And it was always fun watching athletes of all sports when they recognized a Division I coach that they seen on TV in our gym. That was really cool. And it was fun going up and, say, hey, no, you can't ask for their autograph. They're here to work. I'll tell you when you can go ask them for their autograph. And then they just get bombarded with a bunch of people. And that was really cool. And we just don't see that anymore. Bobby Knight at Indiana, for people that remember who that was, and if you don't, it's too bad. You should. He came into the gym and he recruited a couple basketball players, Todd Jadlow and Andre Harris. And I just mentioned their names because they were in a book that was written about Bobby Knight. I thought that was really cool. And the other thing that I thought was neat was that Tim Garl, their athletic trainer, came to the college to visit with these two athletes after they signed. And Tim is still at Indiana. He's done a lot of things. He's involved in Olympics. He's a big name in athletic training. But he came out here and he was talking to both of them. And the thing about Tim was he was the first strength coach / athletic trainer for men's basketball. They didn't use the football strength coach. They used Tim. And Tim came out and he looked at our weight room, which was I can't even describe it. It was so bad. And he just looked at it and said, okay, here's what you're going to do. He goes, first of all, is you're going to come to the campus when school starts. No, before school starts. You're going to come in the summer. And both of them looked like, what? Summer? Nobody did anything in the summer back then except Indiana, I guess. I don't know. But they had to go to Indiana. He goes, I remember him talking to Todd. Todd was a big player for us, tall, strong. He goes, you're not going to last one season at Indiana. I don't care what you think. I don't care what your family thinks. You're not going to make it. Our big men have to weigh this much on the first day of practice. They have to max out at this level on the first day of practice. And if you don't, you won't be practicing until you max out at these levels. And Todd's eyes got really big, and off he went in the summer and he played. So he must have done everything they asked him to do. And I kind of mention that because we think that people don't remember us. It was years later. Bobby had just taken the job in Texas, and we were at nationals in basketball, and he remembered me. So I thought that was, pretty awesome. We had Paul McKeskey, who played at KU when I was at KU, and nobody cares about that. But it was just neat that he was a scout for professional basketball. He was a recruiter for professional basketball, and he came into our gym. And then we had Alex Radojevic, and I know a lot of people probably aren't familiar with him. He was 7'3", one of the first international students that we had come to Barton. Didn't understand English at all. And one of the things that we learned from Alex was you make sure that the rest of the team doesn't teach him the swear words first, because every word he used certain words in every sentence. We're like, no, you don't put those together. Come on, Alex, figure it out. But he learned it quick. And what was neat about Alex is that he was a good basketball player, and there was some connection with a pro team, which today he wouldn't have been able to play at Barton, possibly. I don't know. We didn't care back then. And he came here and played. So he had to go professional when he left here. And it was really cool for me to talk to all of the athletic trainers in the NBA about Alex. And you guys that are going on think that all they look at are your stats. That's what you're worried about. You're worried about your stats. These athletic trainers didn't ask me anything about stats, and they didn't ask me anything about injuries. They didn't even care. And I said, well, you want to know about, his injuries he's had? Nah, we don't care. We'll figure it out when he gets here. We have unlimited money. We'll do all kinds of tests. We'll figure out what his problems are. What we want to know, and this is why I share it, what's his work ethic? Does he have one? Or does he just do what he has to do to get by? Is he mentally tough? And with Alex, I was going, nah, not yet. Because we made it to nationals that year, and we found out that you don't flip the crowd off at nationals. He did. That's, we talked about that. And they wanted to know how I responded to coming in the training room. When I said, come in the training room, did he show up? And that's what they wanted to know about. They didn't care about the rest of it. And then the last athlete that I'm going to talk about by name, and again, I just thought it was really cool, was we had a guy on our team, Charles Gatonga from Kenya. And I wouldn't expect anybody to know this, but it was a big deal to us, and we got it in the Hutch paper, and I thought that was pretty cool too. But he was with Kevin Bacon in a movie called The Air Up There. In this movie, Kevin went to Kenya to find a big, tall basketball player. Well, he found him. He looked really good on TV, but he couldn't play basketball worth a lick. He knew it, we knew it, but it was a good thing with our team to have him on the team. Got us a lot of, press. And it was just, he and I spent a lot of time at the end of the bench, I know that. And then something I haven't seen for years, and I don't think we'll see it again, but it got us a lot of attention at the college, was, and I kind of have it in order here. In 1987, which none of you guys that are in the crowd as students were, even could care less about 1987, but KU had a good team that year, and they had inter-squad games at a lot of the junior colleges. So KU came into our gym to play. And if you want to see a packed house, you have KU come in. We made sure the fire marshal didn't make it in the doors. We didn't have room to stand, to sit. I knew the athletic trainer with KU at that time, and I said, how about you take one team and I get the other team, and that way I can sit on the court. And he goes, yeah, that'll work. And I was able to have a good seat. Otherwise, I don't even know if I'd have had one. It was fun. And then in 91, we had the national team for Ukraine of the Soviet Union. That's what we had on the flyer I was looking at. Ukraine of the Soviet Union. They came and made a tour of the United States. And for me, that was a neat experience because I got to somewhat talk to the physician that traveled with their team. And we talked about our concerns as medical care providers. They don't have athletic trainers in Ukraine at that time. So he was like, how do you do things? And we talked a lot. And then, how proud he was of his family. It was just, it put a human element to it that, that we hadn't seen. And then in 99, which I thought it was a lot earlier than that, we played the Brazil Basketball Confederation. So a community college was able to get not professional, but national teams to come. And that was kind of cool. And I was trying to think of some other sports that we did cool things in, back then. And one was baseball scouts. We'll see one or two come out, once in a while, but so much is done, video now and social media and whatever. But back then, all the scouts would travel in a group, it seemed like, and we would have a large number of scouts at certain games. And what was cool was because I got to know all of those scouts when I was at KU, and I still knew them. Same guys were still scouting then. And it was fun because, again, they talked to me about everything but the stats. And they wanted to know about injuries, too. It was fun. And then just for just a memory thing, I thought was kind of cool. We got a lot of press in the Tribune. So I figure if we got press in the Tribune, right, the media, it's a big deal. Back before we had money for dumbbells, we would go to the tennis coach and get tennis cans, and then we'd go fill them completely full of sand, tape the lid on. Guys were able to tape whatever else they wanted to tape on the can make it personal. And that's what they did their shoulder workouts in and stuff like that. One was left in a laundromat, and somebody seen it and thought it was a bomb. So the bomb squad came out, and it got a lot of press. I thought it was pretty cool. Even bad press is good press, right, Todd? Right? So, we had that, and, it was fun. That was cool. Track and field. We all know that track and field's the team here at Barton. It's got all these national banners out there and everything else. But to talk about how much the community supported athletics, we were in Odessa, Texas. We did this for like 3 years. And we're coming back from Odessa. I'm tired, head track coach is tired, and we're like, man, we're almost home. This was when we would leave at night, and we drove all night to come back. Now, one of our deans thought it would be cool to have an escort, so we had police meet us on the other side of Great Bend, and we had a police escort, stopped off at the courthouse square. A bunch of boosters came out, and it was just a big, big deal, because Barton had finally done something big in track. And I'm sure we won that first year, or they wouldn't have done it, but it was a big deal. Another thing that was neat about track, now when we look at track and field, you look at the late 1990s, the early 2000s, that's when track really started getting their name on the map across the country. And so we had a lot of great track athletes on that team. Well, in 2003, this was the men's track team. In the NCAA track and field championships, if you took the scores of the Barton athletes that were NCAA, we would have gotten third. And in 2004, we would have gotten second. Those were the kind of athletes that Barton attracted. And I believe we still do today. The 2004 Olympics. Now, we have athletes that were at this point already coming from all around the world to represent, Barton. Well, in the USA, at the 2004 Olympics, they had 103 medals. It dropped down to Bulgaria, and they had 12. That was 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 teams ahead of us. The Barton athletes, looking at the teams that they represented, we had 12 athletes at that Olympics, and they earned 9 medals. And there was a quote in the paper from Lyles Lashley, who's now the track coach at Great Bend High, and they asked him why he thought we had such a strong track team. And I'd heard other coaches say the same thing, and it's still true today. Still true today. Well, we're good because there's nothing to do at Barton. You do your sport, and you go to class, and what's left? We ain't got nothing in Great Bend. And I don't even know if I'm sure we had a Walmart back then, but, and that still holds true today. You guys know that. There's not a whole lot to do in Great Bend. So when you come here, you've got that opportunity to do well. In the 2012 Olympics, we had 11 athletes, again, that represented Barton. Well, their own country or college, but we had 9 in track and field. We had 1 men's basketball player and 1 women's basketball player. And it was noted that we had 4 coaches there. Dennis Shaver, Lance Brahma, and Matt Kane are all names of coaches that did really well at Barton and are all still doing extremely well in track and field. Then Nigel Bigby was an assistant. He's gotten in with those guys. I don't know where he's at or what he's doing, but it's kind of there. A couple of times it's been alluded how much athletic training has changed in the last 40 years. And so I was trying to think, okay, we all talk about that, but what's that mean? And one is the evolution of the internet and social media. Horrible invention for me. I am second guessed, triple guessed, I don't know what else you want to call it, on every decision that I make. Parents call me up and go, I was on the internet and this is what my son's from. Then what am I doing here? Like Pete said, I think I know everything. Sometimes it's like, well, if I'm not good enough for you, just go to the internet and do what you want to do. I don't care. And then the coach comes in, well, where are we at with this? I don't know. He's been on the internet. I don't know what's going on with him. That's up to him. That's made life a lot more difficult. A lot of misinformation on the internet, but it's still out there. improvements that have happened in these 40 years, and they're big, with concussions. Didn't really become a big deal until we had all these pro football players with head injuries, and then all of a sudden it's a media event. Oh, we got to worry about concussions. We've been worrying about concussions forever. I think we've done a good job. But one of the things that did change is that to have standards and protocols that we follow. We don't look at each athlete as an individual as much as we used to, and we follow the protocols. Good or bad, I'll argue that one. But what's come out of this is we now understand that there's an academic or a mental component to concussions, and if we match that or work on that, they recover from the concussions quicker. So, that's important. We've gotten athletes to be more honest. I've given Ryan a hard time. I said, man, what do? Just teach these kids everything about concussions? Because a kid will walk in the training room, I got hit in the head at practice, and I have a concussion. Well, how do you know? I got this and this and this and that. Where'd you learn that? In high school. Okay, well, yeah, you're right. You got a concussion. I don't need to diagnose it. You did it for me. It's changed dramatically, and I think we're doing a much better job. The evolution of the MRI, it's been a blessing and it's been a curse. We can see things now and pick injuries up that we used to be able to not do, I guess, and now we can. I've seen MRIs that showed us that we had an issue or an injury, and then when the doctor went in and did surgery, that was wrong. It's not infallible. It's not the answer, but it has come a long ways, and they're a lot better. But again, every time an athlete has a problem with a knee, a problem with his shoulder, have you done an MRI yet? When are we going to get the MRI? We haven't even got that far yet. We're still following, general procedures and protocols that we follow for an injury. But it has helped. The evolution of the scope for surgeries, unbelievable progression. ACLs. You'll have an ACL tear, major ligament in your knee, if you don't know what that is. And it can be sometimes hard to diagnose. And then once we decide we need to do it, a lot of the repair is now done by a scope. Just a little camera in your knee and they do it. And I have watched Dr. Flesky in surgery use a scope on a knee, and it looks really simple. I had the opportunity to use a cadaver knee and try to use a scope on that. I know there's a good thing I didn't become a doctor. Man, I nicked that knee all to heck. It was horrible. Yeah, that's a skill I don't have. But it's made rehab so much better. We did not refer a lot of injuries to orthopedic surgeons when I first came to Barton because we knew that the cure was worse than the injury oftentimes. Some of those surgeries just did not work. And it didn't work because the rehab was so hard back then. The last one I remember was we had a girl who tore her ACL, a volleyball player, basketball player, tore ACL. Well, the standard at the time was to put them in a cast. They cut your knee open, the scar was that long, I swear, put you in a cast for 6 weeks, cast comes off, your knee was stuck in 45 degrees or whatever they put it at. And I remember Ray and Richard and I, we just kind of flipped a coin. Okay, you got mornings, I got afternoons, whatever. And we would just lay on this poor girl's knee and she'd cry and wail and hang in there, we'll get it straight. You just didn't do that surgery unless you just really wanted to play sports. It just wasn't worth it. Now today, it's changed. And medicine is constantly evolving, and that's what I say about athletic training. It's one of the cool things is we're on the forefront of a lot of that change. But with an ACL surgery, it went from let's get them back as fast as we can to, because I got a girl back in 3 months, I was patting myself on the back for a long time. I had nothing to do with this girl, just worked her butt off. But now it's this doctor 6 months, this doctor 9 months, this doctor something else. I don't know how we keep up with it. Sometimes we're looking, okay, which doctor's going to be the fastest? Might go to that doctor, if we can get in. When I started with Dr. Smith and Dr. Flesky, I could call them at home. I could get a hold of them in their office, leave a message, they'd call me back. And for some time that changed. It was just getting more difficult. One is they had more patience. One is they figured out they were going to work 24/7 just because I was. But it changed. But at the time, it was there. And wear and tear injuries on a shoulder. Scopes have just allowed us to go in and do a lot of good things with shoulders that in the past, I'm sorry, it just hurts. And I remember when I got started able to tell an athlete, I really don't know what's wrong with you, and nobody else does either, so just suck it up. And now it's, well, we're going to go to this doctor first, and if he doesn't give us the answer, we're going to go to this one, and then we're going to go to this one, and then we're going to go to this one. And we'll find the one that can help us out. And all the doctors are really good about working with each other, so it's not like we're getting them to compete with each other. It just takes time sometimes. And then I'm going to conclude, because I know I've taken up a lot of your time. I want to talk about the Barton way. Sometimes it's a joke when I say the Barton way, and sometimes it's how good we really are. Barton Athletics has established itself as a leader in the conference and nationally. We're known all over the country. We're known all over the world now. People know about Barton County. Excellence was and still is an expectation. We don't have sports to have sports. We have sports to be good in those sports. And it's really been fun being a part of that. Okay, back in the day, we had a traveling trophy for all the community colleges. It was based on who got first, second, third. We didn't have football. Didn't have some other sports. We won it every year, so they just quit doing it. That's how good we were. On the home front, another thing that really reinforced that I did the right decision in staying at Barton was in the late 90s, I went to the Olympic Training Center for 2 weeks. There were camps coming in that were national camps, and all those coaches knew Barton. The athletic trainers there knew some of our athletes. So we were known everywhere. On the home front, I learned early on in my career, and everyone that ever takes a job learns this, but you have to be adaptable. And at the community college level, it should be in our job description. There's constant change within the various administrative levels, which means what you did yesterday is not what you're expected to do today. Man, I just finally figured out what that guy wants, and now we changed, and I got to learn something else. Come on. How you did something yesterday is now wrong, and you need to do it this way today. More than once, I remember having to answer to why I did something the way I did it. Well, the last guy told me to do it that way. Well, you're not supposed to do it that way anymore. Well, when were you going to tell me? After I got in trouble? Come on. So I just call that the Barton way. But it's that way everywhere. And then when you take a job, there's always this casual, oh, by the way, directive, as I call it. The night I accepted the athletic training position, there was this, oh, by the way, now that you've accepted this position, you're going to be the sports information director. Oh, you got to be kidding me. I got a C in English, and you want me to write? What's the deal? You'll be fine. So, okay. The semester after that, it was, oh, by the way, you're an athletic trainer. We need you to develop an athletic training education program. And when am I going to have time to do that? You'll figure it out. And then a few years after that, it was, oh, by the way, we need you to develop an athletic training education program. We need you to become an advisor. And as the years goes by, there's always these, oh, by the ways. And I don't know an athletic trainer out there that can't handle, oh, by the way. That's how we're ingrained. And then I always joke, and I know Todd and Brandon hear it a lot, and I know my assistants heard it a lot. You know, it's the Barton way, and I just say that because it was Barton administrators that told me this. I had a president one time when I went in and asked him for some equipment. He goes, no, a good Chevrolet, that'll get you where you need to go. Might take you a little longer. You don't need anything better than that. And okay, I got the good Chevrolet. Never mind. And I joke about that. It's Barton. I'm not worrying about what things cost. That's somebody else's job. And they're the ones that tell me that. You know, where are you getting the money for that? I don't know. Just, you got a budget. I don't know. So it goes to that. And then the people that think they're helping you out, you know, I've had this, and this was an example. I was searching on the internet, and what you think you need is not what you're going to get. Because I found something better. No, I've already asking for the best. Don't tell me that. And it's in good fun, but that's just, as you go on in life and you get jobs, you know, unless you're the man at the top, and the man at the top even has to answer to people once in a while, I'm sure. So, you know, it's just the way it works. And thanks again for throwing my name into the Barton Sports Hall of Fame, and thank you for your time. And I'm gonna go back.
Congratulations, Doc. Thank you, Doc. A lot of words of wisdom, certainly for student athletes out there today, the travels of you. And Pete, I know you got to go to your game. Thanks for being here today. Manili, I'll get that right one of these days. You're probably used to it by now, but great to see you. Have a safe travel and good luck tonight. Next up, I want to say one thing about Doc before we move to our next inductee, and that is something that I've shared many, many times since Doc's retirement, over a month ago now, is that Doc Henderson will go down as one of the most valued employees in the history of this college. So over 50 years of people making a difference in the lives of so many young people that have come through here, and he mentioned those numbers a lot. I think that speaks volumes, that if you're one of the best in the history of this college. So Doc, from my heart and everybody else's, thank you for all of those years of your service. Our next presenter happens to be the brother of our next inductee. Myself being the oldest of 5 boys, so I have 4 brothers. I understand the connection there, and I'm very excited to introduce to you our next presenter, Keith Ellis. Welcome.
All right. Sorry, I don't do this a lot, so you have to bear with me. I'm honored to be here. I always knew this would happen at one level or the other, and I'm extraordinarily proud of my brother. I know the other people that made it here today for him are as well. And I know those that can't be here today would have been the most proud. Sorry. Even at a young age, I remember my brother expected everyone around him to be at their best, whatever they're doing, and he let you know when you weren't. Lost my spot, sorry. That was a trait that came from my mom. 100% effort was not acceptable. It was 110 or better. Minimum standard, 110. I can still hear her yelling now. 110, 110. Drive me crazy. I believe he's taken that with him wherever he goes. As an athlete, certainly. As a teammate. in his career now, but most importantly, in two things I know are most important to him, and that's being a family man and being a man of God. It has been an absolute pleasure to spend my time on earth watching you play the game of soccer and the game of life. As your brother and one of many #1 fans, I hope you know that you've always been a Hall of Famer to us. So with that being said, it's my honor to introduce you to a man who truly needs no introductions. The high flyer, the electrifier. While at Barton in 2009, Freshman Player of the Year, also in 2009, All-American as a forward. 2010, All-American as a defender, and 2010 Defensive Player of the Year. Barton's #1 record holder for points scored in a single season, #4 on the list for career goals. I once saw him score 8 goals in one game while he played for Barton. Spent 8 years in Major League Soccer, where he helped win a Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup and an MLS Cup championship. #4 for the Cougars and #1 in your hearts, or at least he should be. The man, the myth, the legend, Barton Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2023 inductee, my brother, Kevin Ellis.
I will be very brief. Thank you. I'm not ever very emotional. There's only a couple people in my life that can ever make me show emotion. This guy's definitely one of them. First I want to thank the school and the Cougar Booster Club for putting this on and for inviting me into what I would say an elite group of people. Also, my family and all of you guys for... You want me to be even more brief than I'm going to be? No, don't do that. I'll wait on that. Good? Again, I thank my family and all you guys for taking time out of your days for being here. I feel honored to be inducted into the Hall of Fame at a place that has such a tremendous history of athletes and athletics. And I think you have to be here or attend school here to understand truly how special this place is. My time here prepared me not only for the next step in my athletic career, but it helped me set the foundation to become the man I am today. I want to thank everyone, teachers, teammates, coaches, the entire athletic department, Doc especially, because I know I spent a lot of time with him. One of my teammates is back here, OC. I don't think I've ever played with a funnier guy than this guy back here. So if you're a women's soccer player and you get to play for him, congratulations. And I just want to thank all of them for the tremendous impact they had on me during my time here. It is an honor to be doing this alongside Doc just because I know how much of an impact he's had on this university. And he won't believe this, but he had an impact on me as well. He was one of the first guys that I met when I came here. I came here injured, and he helped me get back. And so I owe a lot to him. And I'll leave you guys with this for the athletes. If I could give one piece of advice for you guys, know your purpose for being here. Take it serious, and don't let anything get in the way of that. There's a tremendous platform that the university has put forth here, and there's no reason why any of you guys can't do the things that you set out to do. And I think that use me as an example of that, and if I can be a resource to any of you guys, please let me know. Thanks.
Congratulations. I'm really glad to have you back. We'll have to talk about your time with OC. I don't know about that guy. Congratulations again, man. guys want to come up here and sit with your dad? Come on up here. Come on. And you can come too. There's that troublemaker. His dad and I were talking about that before we got started today. I said, I usually got an eye for the ornery ones. That's a beautiful sight right there. And one of the sites that I speak to all the time here at Barton. You know, we've used all those words, culture and village and prosperity, and you could go on, but probably the number one pillar for me here, and anybody that works for me and any of these student athletes will tell you, is family. And so I love that. I love it. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, young man. Our last inductee, again, circumstances didn't allow him to be here this afternoon. And again, hopefully we'll get to see him live and in person this evening. It remains to be seen. But I'll share a few short words with you, and then his presenter, Hall of Famer Lori Slater, who had a lot of interactions with Ebby when he played here, and she was the Booster Club president during that time, will share some thoughts with you as well. About 10 years after I was privileged to play basketball here, came along a young man named Ebby Arah, probably one of the most prolific scorers I've ever seen at the community college level. And I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of basketball at this level. Those of you that followed the team closely during that time period would remember they're at the national tournament in Hutchinson, and he's getting buckets, and lots of buckets. And he's playing in Chuck Taylor's. We've got a lot of young people in here that are probably going, what is a Chuck Taylor? Well, by 2001, believe it or not, we had leather shoes and we had Velcro and we had all these kinds of things, but Chuck Taylors were old 1960s, 1970s cloth material shoes with not very good soles and certainly not very good insoles, and he was getting buckets. Just was one of those players that was really, really, really fun to watch because he was so smooth and everything he did was effortless, which would explain, how many of you have ever been to an NBA game and just watched NBA players play, or especially in warm-up? It's all effortless. I mean, they just jump 40 inches off the floor with no effort. They make 33 pointers with no effort. That would kind of explain why Ebby spent 20 years as a professional basketball player, because he was that smooth and he was that good. If you didn't have the chance to watch him play, you missed it, because he was really, really good. And he donned the Barton uniform for 2 years, being really, really good. And it's my privilege to introduce him into this Hall of Fame today, even though he's not with us personally. So, Lori, I'll let you come up here and share a few thoughts about Ebby, and then we'll get on with our celebration.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks. Okay, I'd like to just briefly mention a few things about Ebby and how he came into our lives personally, and share a few of his accomplishments, not only, in college, but also professionally. He came into our life in 1999. My husband is an OU graduate and big fan, and found out that Ebby was being recruited by the University of Oklahoma. So we called to be sure it would be okay to invite this gentleman to our home for a meal, which he did the next Sunday, and every Sunday after that he was here. It started with Ebby, and then it was Ebby and his teammates, and then it was Ebby and the younger teammates, and those teammates, and on and on and on. Went for 15 years, every Sunday, almost. We had athletes at our home for suppers, and it was a great privilege and fun for us to do. Our son was 4 years old when Ebby came into our lives, and he used to carry him around under his arm. And to this day, JB is 26 now. Those are the fondest memories he has of living in Great Bend, was being with the athletes from Barton County Community College. It was really fun to watch Ebby play. He and his teammates, they were an explosive group, one of many that this college has had. I'll never forget, my favorite thing about Ebby was when he would jump to deny an opponent's basketball, he would say, "Oh no," every time, and he did that a lot. And you could hear him throughout the roundhouse. A few of his accolades and accomplishments, and I know there are many, but I will mention a few. In 1999, he was elected by the Oklahoma Basketball Coaches Association as the High School Player of the Year. He played prolifically while he was here. In his 99-2000 year, he averaged over 9 points and 4 rebounds off the bench. He recorded a double-double and a season-high 27 points against Cloud County. He led the Cougars in the 2001 season in scoring 20 out of the 38 games that he played, helping Barton capture the Region 6 title. He became a member of the all-tournament team, made a return trip to the NJCAA tournament. In 01, he led all scorers at the 01 championship tournament with 129 points through 4 games, falling just 1 point shy of making the NJCAA tourney all top 10 list. He had in his sophomore year 14 single game and single season program accomplishments, including the most points scored in a season at 942, and 4th on the all-time program chart with 128 three-pointers made in a season. He then did follow up and play at the University of Oklahoma, which we were, again, honored to be able to see him there, and again, continue at Grandma's house meals with Ebby and some of his teammates. He was very, very successful at the University of Oklahoma, too. In the 02, they went to the conference tournament, won the title, and then had back-to-back trips to the NCAA tournament, averaging nearly 14 points and over 5 rebounds in his 2 years, with finishes in the Final Four and the Elite Eight both of those years. He was also a very good man and a very humble man when he played. Kelvin Sampson, who spent some time with us when he was recruiting Ebby here, later mentioned, I think, to Todd that when he was a senior, he had a broken bone in his hand or his wrist, was not playing very well, took himself out of the game, said, "You guys do it," but then came back off the bench and helped them win that game with 25 points off the bench and helped them claim the NCAA East Regional title. So he was very, very successful in his career. After college, he did follow up. He played with the National Basketball League, the United States Basketball League. He was an 07-08 All-NBL first-team selection, averaging 26 points and 6 rebounds a game. And then he went on to play in Italy and Spain and was part of the 06 FIBA World Championship with the Nigerian national team. So I think that I'm very sad he's not here. I haven't seen him in a long time, but I think he is very, very deserving of this honor, and I'm happy to be the one to help introduce and present him to the 23 class of Hall of Fame inductees. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. I'm glad you're here today. Thank you. I'm oftentimes asked about putting teams in the Hall of Fame, and the Booster Club Board has asked, we should put this team, we should put that team. If you look at the gross success that we've had here, we'd be putting hundreds of teams in the Hall of Fame, hundreds. And maybe there's a day we need to start doing that. But I just think about Ebby and the team that he played on in his second year here would have to go down as one of the best basketball teams that ever donned the uniform here. And so a big team guy. So Ebby, if you're listening, if you're around, hopefully you'll be here later today. Welcome to the class of 2023 Barton Sports Hall of Fame. I have a couple announcements to make about the rest of the day, but before I do that, if Ken Doc Henderson and Kevin Ellis would please stand. We welcome you and congratulate you as members of the Barton Sports Hall of Fame officially. How about a big hand for both of these gentlemen? You fine? All right, we got more celebrating to do. It is 3:47. We'll take all of the inductees, anybody that would like to take pictures with the inductees. Kevin mentioned he played here with OC. I didn't know that, OC. You know, you'd think the AD had researched that. I told him I was sorry when he got done with his speech. But if you want to take pictures, and certainly family and those kinds of things, we want to certainly take as many pictures as we can. And then we'll move over with any current Hall of Famer and your family that's here, and certainly our new Hall of Famers and their families. We'll go over to the Kavanaugh room in the library, and we'll have dinner here at about 4:15. And then we'll come back for the tip of the women's game at 5:30. And then between the women's and men's games, we will recognize our inductees publicly once more. I would be remiss if I didn't thank those people that made this happen today. Certainly our Booster Club board. I'd like to thank Dr. Heilman for being here. I'd like to thank President Bowman of the Booster Club board for being here, and all the Booster Club members who have helped out and continue to support this. I'd like to thank Todd Moore. I'll say it again, Todd, said it before, the best in the business. That's my assistant AD and SID, and beside him back there is Brandon Smith. Those two mean so much to our department. And then Heather Panning. Where's Heather at? I've lost you. I know where Heather is. She's over getting the meal ready to go. So that's where Heather is, but certainly appreciate those folks greatly. Also tonight, we got a lot going on. So we're going to recognize, first of all, we're playing Hutch, our bitter rivals in basketball. So it's going to be a great night. Hopefully we can get out here with 2 wins. Between the games, we're going to recognize current Hall of Famers and our new inductees. At halftime of the women's game, we're going to recognize our men's tennis team and their 4th place national finish last year. The Hilltop Singers are going to be here to sing the national anthem. And we have a special presentation at halftime of the men's game to go along with the Barton dance team performance. We'll be recognizing Doc for his 41 years of service at halftime of the men's game tonight. So lots of action-packed celebrating to do. We all hope that you'll join us for that, and thanks again for being here this afternoon. So long.